A brush is technology. A brush. The first technology is brushes, pencils, pens, things like that. The technology, of course, that you draw with. I got an iPhone and then I found you could draw on it. And I began drawing on the iPhone. And I'd send them out to people. I'd just send them. So I'd draw flowers and things, and I'd made about 200 drawings on the phone. And then I read about the iPad. So I thought, well, the moment the iPad's out, I'll get that because drawing on a bigger thing would be better.
Technology has liberated an entire generation of thinkers, movers, creators. Technology for Black and brown people all over this globe has created a state of grace that we've never seen here before. What we have now is a communication ability. We have the ability to see working ideas that are going on in the great cities throughout the world. And whether you live in Shanghai or you live in Sao Paulo, you have the ability of seeing and knowing the ideas of some of the greatest minds of our generation.
Young artists from any part of the planet. You could be from Afghanistan and have a camera and have a desire to tell a story. And that actual child or kid making a film from the middle of nowhere can actually put something up on YouTube and have the world experience it. That is, to me, the most exciting time.
Technology was essential in order for there to be filmmaking. There could be no cinema without recorded images, moving images, recorded sound. And as the technology changed, as different elements were added to it, color, talking capability, then the cinema evolved. And as we go on, as the technology evolves and changes, so will the storytelling.
I started so long ago, and a lot of these things and tools that we today have in order to make production work didn't exist back then. But when it comes to my work and my creativity and the way I approach story, I can't really think of one job that I did or one idea that I had that was based on technology. I may use it to make something stronger or more colorful or bigger or whatever, but that's never where I start.
Now, because of the internet, you can get a lot more information. Some of it's maybe questionable, but a lot of it is really necessary.
It makes access to everything so much easier. So you want to look up the painting by any artist, you immediately can look at images, you can immediately have information about everything that ever was written about these artists. This instant access to knowledge transforms the possibilities. And so whether you're an art lover or an art creator or somebody who's in the art market, everybody benefits from what technology brings.
I think if there was no technology today, it would have meant that, we wouldn't have made all the steps before. So basically, we would be the uncivilized people we were a long time ago. And I mean, there was nothing bad with us then, but I think we are a species which grows itself, which, claims itself to higher standards. We grow as unique people, we grow together. And I think the inevitable result of this is that we create technologies which are more and more able to give us a life which we can't even imagine today.
We spend too much of our time staring at our cell phones, too much of our time answering all the different things that are coming and trying to keep up with the amount of questions that are so easily there, the FaceTimes, the emails, the texts. the WhatsApp message, the Snapchat, the tweets, all these things that just consume us, and we don't, I have a newborn son. You got to put the phone down and look at your son, and soon he'll be running around and you'll want to go outside and run around with him. And there's no app for that. That's just taking the time of being a human.
If somebody doesn't have a smartphone and they don't own a computer, that's enough art for me. Like, that person is off the grid, and it's like they've resisted. They have been existing. Say if it's an 18-year-old or a 15-year-old, to exist for 10 years on this planet without needing to put yourself out there like that, that takes so much willpower. You might as well be a monk in China, probably is the equivalent. And I think that's that is gonna be what kids get into in 20 years' time, to be able to hang on to this concept of privacy and to mess with that, because we are really stupid right now, and I think there'll be a backlash to our stupidity.
Because now you go out to dinner and people are just on their phones and no one's talking to each other, or everyone's walking down the street and not paying attention to what's going on, or constantly taking pictures of their food and their lives and not in their food or their lives.
It's more like everyone's becoming a synapse, and all those synapses are joined together to make this huge brain that is this kind of... I think what's really interesting to me is the difference between the physical world and the world within our brain and imagination. And I think what's happening now is a very strange thing, where we're leaving the physical world and living more of our time in a virtual world, which seems perhaps sometimes more real than the physical world we inhabit.
My impression is that in a strange way, some of the most, and this is only worth technically, scientifically, and philosophically for fine art. I'm not talking about cinema, I'm not talking about television, I'm not talking about music, but the fine artists, I'm talking about museums and galleries, are populated of a lot of people that made artwork that has had nothing to do with technology, and that worse, if represented through technology, loses a lot of its value.
I know lots of artists who are just totally committed to the smell of oil paint, and that's it for them, and they're not interested in anything else. And I can identify with that, but I also see these other people as using the world to make their statement, bringing, this technological advances and fusing them together to make a new picture.
I think that artists will oftentimes long for different mediums, and that's the beautiful thing about creativity, is that it's recycled. Not only the ideas, but also the methods.
I actually was trying to think of ideas for an app. I work in a lot of different mediums. I make films, feature films, I write books, I make performances, I do web art, I do sculptures. So that, I wasn't at all thrown by working in a new medium, but it is true, apps are really different. And what was fascinating to me is just the entire creative process is different.
Today, many of us define time periods through technology. When we think about the past, the way that we may describe it is through fashion, through film, and through technology like music. Think about the technology of how music has been recorded, from phonographs to records to radio and television to CDs and Walkman.
People don't actually think about the fact that the modern day music business probably came from Tesla. Tesla created the idea of radio. Radio became mainstream amongst us, and radio was a passing of music across large, vast amounts of land. And we were able to have mainstream radio, and suddenly there was a need for a mainstream music business. So technology actually created the music business itself. So it only makes sense that it slowly shapes us over time.
One of my favorite quotes came from the architect Frank Lloyd Wright. He said that architecture is frozen music. And I've always loved that idea of looking at buildings and seeing music in them. And once I started building instruments that attached into architecture and used architecture to create the music, I really, I felt like I was sort of unfreezing the music.
I don't make sweetie pie buildings, but I want them to be user-friendly. I want you to feel like comfortable in them. And I don't design every piece of furniture, so I'm very interested in watching what people do with the spaces and to make it their own, bring their own stuff. I love that. That's why we're having fun with Facebook, because you got 2,000 kids on machines, and they all have different tastes. And we've built a building where we're letting it all hang out. They're bringing their stuff in, and some of it's horrible and some of it's beautiful, and the melange of it all is kind of a very 21st century human texture that has a little bit of Blade Runner, maybe, but it's interesting.
Anyway, I'm doing some photographs that are different. I know they're different, and that's what I'm doing now.